Hey everybody, it is Dungeon Master Mark, and today's morning video we are doing is on the RPG at day 2016, day 15 question for the RPG Brigade, which was where do you get a lot of your inspiration for whether it's campaigns, scenarios, stuff that you write, and basically, as a GM, where do you get a lot of your inspiration from? And I kind of thought about it really early this morning over a cup of coffee. And I don't really have one set particular place where I get a lot of my ideas from. I would say I get a lot of video, or I should say a lot of ideas from my video, especially training that for scenarios, everything from like some of the old Dungeon and Dragon magazines. Sometimes I'll take a scenario and I'll kind of switch it up and work it into my campaign that I already have. If it's something where I'll kind of, especially if I'm short on time, and I'll change the story in that and make it work with my campaign. Something I've done in the past before is I'll take old box sets like the Night Below, and I'll rework that. I actually ran this for Pathfinder, so I basically reworked the story, their campaign, and changed a bunch of information, and then added a couple other like story arcs, which was a very fun campaign. We played that for about 6 months. Another thing I do a lot, especially when watching movies, TV shows, I've ran a couple campaigns based off of arcs of Stargate from the Stargate universe. There was one where there was creatures that inhabited human bodies that basically took over. They acted kind of like a mind flare, burrow into a person's skull, and it was very hard to detect them. So the players they wouldn't be able to use like detect evil and things like that because the body wasn't evil. There was just an entity in there. So that was kind of an interesting campaign, but that was mostly based off of Stargate, like the gold and the humans. Another thing I've done is I've looked at. Recently, I did a review on the new Tarzan movie after my wife and I went on a date night and went and saw Tarzan. So I worked a jungle adventure from the movie into my campaign. So I think being, I don't want to say a really good GM, but part of being a GM is being flexible and kind of taking ideas from over here and taking ideas from over here, and just kind of melding those together, and not being afraid to try new things and being really open. And see, the important thing is, like I said, I have two small children, so when I'm running kids games or games for my children, one of the things you got to do is you have to kind of take a look at like, what your children are into. So my daughter is still going through a princess phase. So I've ran kids games where it's based off of like a group of princesses are meeting before some type of big dance, like a big ball, and they're being kidnapped. So another group of princesses that haven't made it to that meeting yet have to save them. So my daughter and a couple of her little friends were princesses, and then there was a bunch of evil goblins and giant spiders that they had to fight. So it's one of those things where you have to be flexible. Like I said, I don't think there's really many people that get inspiration just from one place. Um, I have got inspiration before from books, magazines, from movies, from TV shows, even reading someone's blog. One thing I sometimes do, I'm a very physical and touchy person. So when I find stuff like this at flea markets or craft stores, sometimes I just have to work stuff like that into campaigns. I love props. Obviously, I love 3D terrain, but when you can find props that you can use in your train, like for instance, this was one of the quests was one of the diamonds they were looking for. So basically, a necromancer had stole this to use for some type of necromantic, like mythal effect that they're going to basically raise this big giant undead dragon, and this was going to be the main material component they need to raise the thing. So the party's main goal was basically like, they knew they couldn't defeat the actual necromancer because they were too low level, but they wanted to get this to prevent the spell from happening. So I worked this into a module that I basically, I don't want to say stole the idea, that I stole some of the ideas from a module, switched some stuff around, and instead of them basically trying to find this treasure chest full of artifacts, this is what they're going after. So I think the main thing is, as a GM, is finding whatever your niche is or whatever your idea is. You'll sometimes latch onto something and just being able to work that into whatever you're writing at the time. And that's what this particular RPG RPG a day question. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.